This video's not going to get edited. It's just me talking to you about how I fixed myself, about how I went from the specimen on the left of that thumbnail who was anxious, angry, didn't have a healthy lifestyle, really just suffered inside and out a lot of the time without realizing, and whose poker game was frankly in disarray, to now where I'm far from the finished article in either poker or life, but I've moved a hell of a long way in the right direction in both areas. And I'm going to talk about 5 things that I've improved in each area today to give you a sense of what improvement might be possible for you. Many of you watching this will know more about all of the life areas that I talk about today, but I just want to share my experience of what I've managed to improve. And I don't claim to be an expert on any of it, and I'm sure some of you watching will know far more about how I could optimize that further and might even correct some of the stuff that I say today. But I'm actually quite shocked. I was looking through my computer earlier. I have this folder on my computer where all of my selfies for thumbnails and whatever content I'm producing go. And I scrolled back to the start of the folder and I had stuff from 2019 onwards. And I came across the image on the left hand side of the thumbnail and I was like, God. And I compared it to the one I'd just taken, which ultimately I used for this video. And I was like, I actually look okay now. Before, even though I was, fresh faced and 6 years younger in 2019, I looked so unhealthy, man, but I didn't realize it. I was like in some bizarre, distorted reality where I just looked normal. I thought I just looked normal, but I didn't. The guy at the left of that thumbnail is ridden with anxiety, anger, terrible lifestyle. I'll get into all of that. But let's get started. Here's the first life thing that I've changed, and then I'll switch over to poker, back to life again, back to poker. Let's do it that way. The first life thing that I've changed is hedonism or a lack thereof. When I was in my 20s, I fancied myself as some sort of like troubled poet type, creative, insane person. I don't know, something like that. And I used to write poetry, and some of it I think was decent, some of it was pretty awful. I wrote this one thing when I was on a train in Italy one afternoon, and it was called Subjective Hedonism for Beginners, like an arrogant manual about how you should live your life purely to maximize the pleasure within the state of your own mind and minimize the pain, right? And hedonism, the pursuit of momentary satisfaction, let's say, a sort of utilitarian philosophy of maximizing pleasure, minimizing pain, is really quite flawed. And it led me astray for a long time. Now, when I talk about hedonism, I'm not just talking about alcohol binges, medicating through, drinking or other means. I'm not just talking about doing what you want in the moment, acting impulsively, getting swept away with whatever emotion is giving you the most respite in the moment or seems like the clearest choice. I'm also talking about avoidance, avoiding something uncomfortable, unpleasant, grueling, hard, unclear, because that leads to basically a bad state for future you. If past you didn't repair the leaks in the ship, then future you ends up drowning because of past you. But I didn't really get that. Past me was always putting myself in a shitty spot, and I was always making bad choices to just numb the impact of that in the short term. The way I used to live my life, it was almost like insanity. I look at now and it's like this circular, vicious cycle of making bad decisions and then having to make more bad decisions just to like stay afloat. Like you're just patching yourself up and puncturing yourself at the same time. So now I don't want to say that I don't have hedonistic impulses that I act on. Like I still do. I still like order a Domino's from time to time. I'll still do things that make me happy in the moment to an extent, but I no longer crave those things because I don't see them as a viable solution anymore. And now there's more of like a less up and down, less peaks and troughs, just like more stable long term contentment in my life. I still have bad days, of course, like anyone does, but I no longer feel empty. And one of the ways that I kind of fixed that was getting therapy, processing like a difficult childhood, stuff like this, but also just becoming way more self aware that my body was the thing that was generating mental states. Actually, it isn't just that you can create some state in your brain and then you're fine because you are a brain. I used to identify as just my brain and I just wanted to make it better through any means possible in the short term. And now I understand that my body is this thing that exists throughout time and it's sensitive to how I treat it and how I condition that body through diet, lack of things like alcohol that I've just come to realize is extremely, extremely bad and toxic. That makes a massive difference long term because if I have a body that's conditioned over a period of months, and Gen Z, by the way, realizes this way better than my stupid millennial generation did. Some of us did, I didn't for a long time. Then your brain, which is a function of the biology of your body, in my opinion, is going to be better. It's going to be in a better state because the flesh and neurotransmitters and neurons and biology that it comes from are better. So these days I see taking care of my body as like the scaffolding on which my mental states are going to sit, instead of seeing my mental states as these primary things that I could directly manipulate at the expense of everyone and everything else. Hope that makes sense. The first poker thing that I want to discuss today that's a lot better from 2019 me is a freedom from GTO and an ability to back myself. I used to back myself a lot when I first started playing poker. When I played a lot before I started coaching primarily, I backed my instincts, my intuition. I had like a deep love for the game. I was very, very passionate about it. And I would make reads that were really good, and I would have like logical flashes in the moment that were really good. And I was, good at putting people on ranges and reacting to that and understanding how the EV of my hand changed based on the opponent's mistakes, ranges, tendencies. Then at some point, the GTO thing happened. I decided that, well, everyone's studying solvers, I better do that too. And that was ultimately the right call to get immersed in GTO. It's just that things that are that complex, that are such a different, basically, they're so different methodically speaking that they make your game worse before they make it better again. And I went into this GTO cave that I often talk about. And my game got a lot worse for quite some time. And that made me lack confidence. I lost the ability to make reads. I just fell out of touch with that side of myself. And when that happened, I stopped backing myself and I started to view myself as a lesser poker player. And then I felt like I needed GTO as a crutch. It's almost like a drug addiction, right? I didn't understand theory and GTO quite well enough to be able to interweave it with the skills I previously had. And so I just left those skills on the side. I kind of cast them away and then felt like I was reliant on GTO or theory or whatever. And because my theory wasn't strong enough yet, I was kind of fumbling around and guessing and not quite getting it. And that made me feel even worse about my game. And it made me feel like I had to lean on theory even more. It was like a dependence. The more you take the drug, the more you become dependent on the drug, the less you're able to have the confidence to function without it. It was a little bit like that, but with solvers and GTO and copying them instead of creative thought, logic, a game, intuition, all the good stuff that had formerly carried me as a poker player. So, what I'd say to you if you're starting out and you're learning in the solver era and you're looking at GTO Wizard and you're trying to understand Sims is that the underlying theory, the skeleton of the game, the bones of the game that a sim draws upon when it reaches a verdict are very important. So the whys, if, buts, and hows of poker, as illustrated in a sim, are important. And when you look at the result of a sim, you will see things that embody the raw materials of poker. For example, if you see the solver overbet bluffing the flop with just one overcard and some flimsy backdoor, that is extremely crucial to understand why that's okay. It's not cool to just copy it and not think about it. Some things in game theory, like a certain blocker taking a certain line because of what it thinks its opponent's done with its own blockers, like this really meta convoluted shit. This is not so important to understand, and it doesn't embody the bare bones of the game. So what I've come to learn is in time that the stuff you need out of GTO, out of solvers, is the stuff that exemplifies the foundational logic of the game, how EV functions, what things increase it, decrease it, how range versus range works in terms of EV, and certainly not balance. Balance is secondary to EV. Is it a thing in theory? Yes. Is it the foundation of theory? Is it the reason the output is what it is? No. Balance is a luxury that you get by maximizing EV in the right way. And if I'd understood that sooner, I could have blended my old skills where I traced EV really well subconsciously and rationalized about it creatively with solver work. But the two were separate to me for quite some time. And for a long time, I thought that studying poker theory meant trying to be balanced or trying to be more balanced. And that's kind of entailed in it, but it's not the point. The point is like understanding how EV is functioning in the theoretical realm. Okay, so the upshot of that rant is that these days I have a lot more freedom to make reads, do what I want to do, think about what's highest EV, both theoretically and exploitatively, and there's no friction there. Exploitative poker to me is just moving a certain way from a theoretical baseline effortlessly and freely because you've integrated the two modes of thought fully. All right. The second thing that I've changed in life over the past few years is what I call snowballing confidence. And this is kind of a function of getting stuff right. When you get stuff right in poker, for example, it can feel like all these dominoes like falling into place, where like as one thing clicks, another 800 things click because they were all leaning on each other in this sort of cohesive web of ideas. And when one is right, the other ones are right. It's a bit like a Rubik's Cube, right? It's either all right or it's not solved. And life is a bit like that too, I think, where as you start to make better choices and look after yourself more and act in healthier ways and be better to others and your loved ones and all of that, you begin to like yourself more and you begin to feel stronger and more confident. And as you begin to feel stronger and more confident, you're empowered to make better choices because you back yourself to make better choices and you have faith in yourself to solve difficult situations or handle adversity or make the most out of good ones. And when you don't have those things, you end up doubting yourself, making bad decisions, then you have a poor self-image, and then it's like a snowball in the other direction. So as you look at me here today in 2025, I'm very confident. I have a lot of belief in myself. I'm borderline arrogant at times because I am just that self-assured these days. And it doesn't come from some pretentious place of like, look at me, blah, blah, blah. It comes from the result of feeling like I've got lots of stuff right. And I look after myself and I just feel healthier. I'm still miles away from like where I'd like to be. I can still see a bunch of flaws. There's still days where I'm super frustrated at myself for just not doing the things I think I need to do. But looking back, it's night and day. And I used to know this really vulnerable, anxious, angry, bratty kind of shell of a side of myself. I used to be very familiar with that guy, and I used to think, oh no, that guy's come out who's threatened and is like really insecure here and feels really powerless. And I remember doing like loads of coaching back in the day in like 2020 when COVID first hit. And my mental health was shot and I was drinking too much in lockdown and just making bad choices. And a student would start speaking about like a difficulty they're having poker wise or mental game wise, and I would just like zone out and I would just be like kind of unable to breathe. And like if they were having a bad time, I would feel that anxiety, but I wouldn't be able to like help them so well because I'd be like on the verge of having a panic attack sometimes. Like my mental health was really bad then. My self-image was that of this like helpless child. That's how I'd view myself in those moments. And now it's almost like I have so much faith in my ability to function that if I am feeling anxious, I'm just like, no, I got this. Like I just believe in myself these days. And I truly think that if you get stuff right in any discipline, whether that be poker or life or any other game or pursuit, it's like a snowballing effect where you just grow stronger and bigger and more powerful, like a snowball rolling down a hill. And then you just look at yourself one day and you're just this giant snowball and you're good. You've got enough snow. This is a stupid analogy, but you get the point, right? And I think snowballing confidence is really important to illuminate for anyone that's struggling because you might think, I'm never going to get to a point where I'm really confident. Like, it's just not possible for me because I'm just insecure. And I used to feel that way as well. I always had like a bit of a streak where I could be a bit, I don't know, Jack the Lad or full of myself at times or whatever in my 20s, but not in a, like a well-rounded way. And I could never hold on to it like the next day. Like after the night out was over, I wasn't like at the party anymore. I couldn't hold on to that. It was fake. It was temporary. It was hedonistic. So if you only experience that in short bursts, like I used to, the hope is that as you make better long-term life choices, as you like repair all the leaks in your ship, so to speak, one day you realize that like you have exponentially grown, and it can be quite rapid. Like I've made so much progress in the last few years of my life than I did in like the 30 whatever years before that. 39 now, just turned 39. So it took me a long time to get shit together. Got a long way to go, but growth is exponential once the snowball starts rolling down the hill in poker in life. Use that as inspiration if you feel like you haven't hit that tipping point yet where you've started rolling and growing. Like you will. Okay, point two in poker. I now have a game plan that's theory based as a baseline that has concrete sizes in it and lines. Like I'm building a new course right now that shares that game plan with all of you. It's going to be a long time in the working. I'll keep you updated. Every single node is covered in the new course. It is completely comprehensive, holistic, tells you what your bet sizing toolkit is, tells you how to select the hands for each size in theory, and shows you why, most crucially, with plenty of like solver exploration, PowerPoint slides, all of that. I'm also doing this for me, by the way, so I can finalize and cement what my baseline game is. But now that I have that, I feel really like I've outsourced so much of the thinking to like these other parts of my brain that now have room to operate. Like I'm now able to, that's not even the right way to put it. I've basically partitioned off the baseline stuff to the subconscious. So I just know in some spot, okay, just bet pot or check here. That's my toolkit. And then my brain can go, well, these are the thresholds. This is like the weakest value hand roughly that can bet pot. This is where the bluffing starts. This is where the showdown value begins. And I start checking. These are some hybrid hands that bet for weird reasons. More about that in the Carrot Poker School if you're interested at carrotcorner.com. Hybrid bets are weird. But yeah, not to get too derailed by hybrids. Having that structure frees up bandwidth for me to like make reads, think about what mass data would say about the spot, observe timing, notice stats, stack size, all these things that I'd normally miss if I'm just like racking my brain trying to find the right theory for the spot. Have a theory baseline, work out what your default sizes are in different spots, and run sims only for those sizes. Do not run sims with 6 sizes. I get it. It's cheaper on Wizard or whatever. It's less work than using Pio or a custom solver or using the AI mode. It's more expensive in Wizard. I get it. But these trees are trash. A tree with 7 sizes is a garbage tree. You're looking at something that's split 7 times more than what would happen in reality. You're looking at a fraction of a range, a leaf on the end of a twig on the end of a branch, rather than a mainline branch that you want to be looking at. So if you use B150 in a turn spot, don't look at a sim that's using 5 different sizes. That's not going to tell you how to play your strategy. So solver baseline, simplified, reduced inputs, familiarity with size is really important as a baseline. Know when to stray from it, deviate from it, but have the baseline first. That is the best advice I can give you in 2025 about how to think about the game. Point number 3, and I've talked about this a bit already, but body and mind. I used to only care about my mind. I used to be a human from the head up. I'd go through life just thinking, I still do this too much, honestly. Like, how can I solve this with my brain? Like, what logical step could I do? And how will that make me feel better? Or how will that optimize things? And now, if something's wrong in my brain, I'm more like, what's going on, body? Did you get a bad night's sleep? Are you too tired? Are you dehydrated? Do you need some element? I'm not even sponsored by Element, but that's like the salts that I drink when I'm fasting. And I fast, by the way, as well, which really works for me. There'll be a diet that works for you, or like a pattern of eating or fasting or whatever that works for you. And everyone's different, so I've heard. So you just have to try stuff out. I tried keto at one point. Didn't quite try carnivore. I was thinking about it. But now I just do intermittent fasting, and it's definitely the healthiest and happiest I feel. I'm actually at my A game when I'm towards the end of the fasting period, and it's the way that I can actually lose weight. I was probably a stone and a half heavier in the left of that thumbnail than I am now. And partly that's because I've begun to correlate healthy body with healthy mind. Like, I still want to optimize healthy mind. It's really, really important to me. In fact, it's maybe the most important, subjectively speaking, going through your life. But these days, I understand that it can't just be this human from the head up. If my body's doing well, then the canvas for my mind is correct, and then like my mind can paint good stuff. If the canvas is all messed up and dirty and torn, then I can't make a good painting. Okay. MDA and instincts. When mass data was first a thing, it got like a bit of a bad press, like, oh, data mining your opponents. What I've learned by making grade E, the mass data grade of the Carrot Poker School, some of the data I'm putting into the new course, and just any data stuff that I've studied, is that there's not much difference between pools unless you're looking at like a very small, high skill level, exploitative player infested, MDA player infested pool. You're going to see that human tendencies are fairly static across games, across 10NL, 50NL, 100NL, live, fast fold, regular tables. Of course, regs and recreationals are a bit different in certain ways, but in other ways they're not. And these reads are widespread. So when we study MDA, when you look at like Carrot Poker School grade E, you're not actually looking at some humans who've been specifically targeted by data. You're looking at just like a very broad sweeping verdict on humankind as poker players. And man, did they have the same stuff that you can exploit all the time. And like what I've really married together successfully in the last few years is instincts about how humans play. And I get these from like coaching people. I've talked to hundreds of different humans over the past decade and a bit. Hundreds and hundreds, like I mean closer to 1,500 probably. One-to-one paid coaching sessions. I've heard how so many 10NL, 25NL, 50, 100, 200, 500 and up players think about the game. And it's quite uniform. It's not that different. And when you have data for like a big global pool, like I don't know, GG 100NL or something, that data will be valid on ACR, it will be valid on Ignition with a few tweaks, it'll be valid on PokerStars, iPoker, whatever. It will be humans, it'll describe humans. And even people you play in the card room, okay, they're a different skill level. Some of them are worse than online, but the patterns are still true. That's where courses like Cash Injection, Grady, etc. come in. That's why I made those kind of courses. And since I've done that and put in that work, I feel like the data has helped me cement suspicions I already had about what humans are getting wrong. And the best way to use a data driven course is to think about why. And that's why in Grady I talk about why all the time. So MDA and instincts, marrying those together, getting a bit of data and understanding how it works, that's been huge for my game. And using theory as like the sort of measuring tape to see how off the humans are. Really powerful to pair those things together. Point number 4 in life: alcohol, diet, and exercise. Big things that have changed. Drinking massively reduced. I've talked about this before. Was I like technically an alcoholic? Probably not. Would I drink, I don't know, way more than you're supposed to? Yeah. Would I drink like most of a bottle of wine a night sometimes? Yeah. Whiskey? Yes. Hangover? Anxiety the next day, shrinking confidence, tightness in the chest, unable to breathe, feeling like a drink will make it easier at like 6 o'clock that night. Yeah. So I used to be a bit like that. And binges as well. Like if you grow up as a millennial in the UK, I've talked about this in a recent video, but you know, it's normal to go out and get absolutely shit faced. I did this for like all of my 20s and like the start of my 30s to some extent as well. And it lost its charm because the negatives began to way outweigh the positives, like in a major way. So yeah, it's just such a net negative thing, a horrible poison, like a really truly bad thing to do regularly. And I'm not preaching here, but if you can reduce what you're drinking, it'll have a massive, massive effect in the long term. It'll improve your life a lot. Diet, loads of takeaways, didn't used to eat enough vegetables. It's hard to measure, honestly, like how much my improved diet these days has helped. I still overeat sometimes. I still don't eat enough of the good stuff and too much of the bad stuff. I'm impulsive. If I'm not fasting, I'll eat like another scone out of the tub that I've baked, or two more packets of crisps. This is why I have to like have fasting windows to protect myself and my own impulses when it comes to eating. But in general, loads better. Can't quantify it exactly, but just like more protein, less carbs, more fruit, more vegetables, that sort of thing. Exercise. The problem I used to have with exercise was I would do it for like 2 weeks, maybe even like most days, and really get into it, that I'd burn myself out and never do it again. My advice for you: different types of exercise that you enjoy. I'll go running one day, cycling the next, do some weights the next day. Make it easy. This is like Atomic Habits by, God, what's the guy's name? Is it James Clear? You can correct me if that's wrong. But there's a book I read and it's about make it accessible, make it easy, make it fun. Something else as well. Someone will write it in the comments. But basically, the more repeatable the behavior is, the more easily it will become a habit, and the more fun and, the less resistance there is to doing it, the less difficult you make it to do it, the more you can repeat it. So just like having weights in the outbuildings, like where I live, like there's these old stables like adjacent to our house, and we don't use them as stables. We don't have horses, but we use them for storage, and just like keeping the weights in there, working out there instead of going to the gym. Like cancel my gym membership because getting in the car and driving for 20 minutes each way made it hard, and I just couldn't get into the habit. Driving somewhere down the road to go for a run by the canal where it's nice, make it fun, make it pleasurable, I'm more likely to do it again. So now the habits are kind of sticking, and it really helps. That's just part of like the body helping the mind be healthy. Makes you better at poker. Um, this is the last poker point. I'm actually going to merge the number 4 and 5 together. I had said putting it all together, and then I'd written immersion. And I think they're really linked. So putting it all together means having theoretical knowledge. I made the Carrot Poker School as I was finally feeling like I understood game theory very well, and I wanted to explain like the whys and the hows. So that's really important when it comes to theory, is having the whys, seeing how it all slots together. What are the concepts that drive poker theory, and getting more and more familiar with those. Then developing like a baseline game. What sizes and what spots? What are the thresholds and ranges? What hands do what thing and why? How does it fit in? Then how does the population play a spot, and how do you tweak your default game plan? Is this overfolded? Because if it is, like delayed c-betting, the most overfolded spot in the world, you should just delayed c-bet bluff now, for example. Do I mix here? Do I follow my game plan, or is there a pure play against the population that increases EV? Because if there is, I should do it and not worry about repercussions like 2019 Pete used to. Don't worry about balance, in the words of Yuri Peleg. What are they going to do to you exactly? As he said to Bennett Babbitt recently. And then individual game flow, tempo, instinct type stuff. That timing was instant. That player did that before I noticed that I took a note. There's no way they have a set when they take that timing and then check the river. This sort of thing. I sense my fold equities high here because I backed myself and I'm playing my A game and I know what I'm talking about. Listening to your sort of inner voice that knows what's going on. And then immersion. If you can put all that together through lots of practice and conscious effort, eventually it becomes subconscious, and that allows you to get immersed in the game. And that allows you to basically play your A game more often. So that's my sort of condensed roadmap to how to become an absolute, I don't know, not a beast. I don't want to say that, but like the version of yourself that can play their A game and B game much more often than you could in the past. Point number 5, last point in the life realm. Living for others. I didn't used to do this enough. Now I'm a dad, became a dad at the end of last year. Obviously, best thing I've ever done, blah, blah, blah. Best and hardest. If you're not a dad or a mum, you'll hear people say best and hardest thing like it's obviously true. That's why everybody says it. Amazing. Like life feels complete, feels enriched. And I feel like I just have this purpose that's just way more important than me and how I'm feeling on any day. And that's stabilizing. Because then you're not just this leaf in the wind that gets swept up by the hedonic tide and just wants to do whatever you want. And, you kind of stop puncturing your own ship at that point, and you start repairing and making sure things are okay, because you just have this unnegotiable higher sort of purpose. I had to pause the video to sneeze, and this is not an edited video, which is why we interrupted your viewing pleasure. If only I could cure hay fever, then I would truly have fixed myself in poker and in life. So yeah, living for others. Also, like, I work with junior bridge players now. I teach bridge in a school. I love bridge. Like, having a passion outside of like poker, outside of work, is really, really important as well. And yeah, I branched off wildly into another card game. Yeah, it's my dad's fault for playing too many card games with me when I was a kid. But yeah, living for others and just having that sense of like serving is super important. It keeps you grounded. It makes you feel like you like yourself more. It makes you feel like you just have something in your life that's greater than any impulses and greater than any anxieties or fears. It's just like this constant, which is like living for others. And I don't know, it just it took me a long time, I should say, to feel enough motivation to actually not be so self-centered. It just took me a hell of a long time. And yeah, I had therapy, I had to heal a lot of stuff that was damaged and all of that from childhood, and it took a while. And then I realized that I've been missing out by not being more selfless earlier in life. So yeah, at the poker table, you have to be selfish. In a sense, you're playing for you. There are no teammates. It's just you and opponents, and you're trying to beat them as badly as possible to survive the hostile rake of the modern day. I get it. But you can work with others. You can help other players. You can join our Discord group by getting grade 1 of Carrot Poker School Weapons of War or equivalent or higher price product. And you can hang out in the voice channels all day as people stream their sessions, post hands for review, make friends, form your own subgroups, and help each other. And that will bring a sense of community to poker. We're sorely lacking community these days. I've seen all too many times the poker player that's trying to make it on their own, that's never had a poker friend or study buddy. And see, when you've got someone you like working with on the regular, it just makes such a humongous difference in any discipline. Think about how we learn sports, martial arts, other games. We train with other humans. We talk to other humans. We don't just sit there studying a solver and then battling humans. It's a recipe for insanity. So living for others, with others, important in poker, important in life. I'll leave you with that thought. If you want to join our Discord community, get something at Carrot Corner, click the link in the description and use code Crush25. That code is meant to be going live next week. It's going live next week, but I'll just give you it now as well. It'll be valid for like a week and a bit, and it's 25% off. It's 25% off code at Carrot Corner. Get it for watching this video all the way to the end. It's a little reward for helping us boost our status with the algorithm. And if you did make it this far in this video, just me ranting, I really appreciate it. Let me know if you want me to make more stuff like this. If you want me to get back to the poker next time, I can do that too. Let me know. All the best. And good luck, not just in poker, but in life. Take it easy.